is it me, or does this always kind of go down the rabbit hole and land on LGTV issues? Because that's how I always hear it. You know, like, can I find one person that's deconstructed that is not affirming, or right? Like, because then what it really is you don't like what the Bible has to say about this instead of actual issues with that.
To be fair, if you deconstruct for other reasons, right, you're ultimately going to become affirming regardless, because you'd be like, oh man, there was this whole thing that I didn't agree with. That is a huge part of our culture. Socially, more or less. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. To me, this is me. I don't think that's an objective critical thinker, because I think there's multiple ways you can arrive at why that isn't optimal for human flourishing without ever using the Bible. Like, I can make an argument for why is wrong without ever using the Bible. So the moment you guys find me someone, and I would love to have a conversation with this person, that deconstructed or deconverted but is still pro-life and is still pro one man, one woman marriage, I'd be like, yo, that's amazing. But all these folks all of a sudden start thinking that LGTV is optimal and good, and that deleting babies in a womb is okay. Like, what? Like, okay, so then maybe,
or they got LGTV skeletons in the closet.
Yeah, or that, right? So maybe it's a deeper ideology and paradigm you want to submit to, and you know that you can't do it and still color within the lines of Christianity. I'm not saying that's even conscious. I'm not even saying that's even conscious, but there is a cultural zeitgeist that packages things like determination of babies as a woman's right. You know, and again, and I'm not saying that, like, with the LGBT thing, like, I'm not saying that needs to be elevated as like the biggest issue. But what I am saying is, when it becomes extremism, when it becomes, you cannot opt out of teaching of these topics being taught to your elementary school kids, which is that is what we're dealing with in Glendale right now. That is what we're dealing with in Escondido right now. You cannot, parents cannot opt out of having their elementary school kids learn about social studies and the history of Pride Month and all these sorts of things. You can't opt out of that sort of stuff. Then that subtly starts to feel like indoctrination. That subtly starts to feel like, we're going to teach you the truth and we know what's best for your kids. And I'm like, okay, that's extremism. That's not an issue with every single person that's walking around here that's dealing with this sorts of stuff. So the interesting part is going to be, and I don't know if you had this story pulled up, but the interesting part is going to be, how are they going to set up Muslims who push back against this, right? Because Muslims in the left have always had this kind of weird symbiotic relationship where, like, the liberals in the left won't call out some of the kind of harsh stuff that happens within Muslim cultures, right? But then they'll call it out within Christian communities. So it's like, if Christians do it, they're toxic and it's patriarchy. But if Muslims do it, it's like, well, no, you just got to respect their culture and respect it. And now Muslims are fighting. See if you can pull up that article. And now Muslims are like protesting. Now they're on the front lines protesting this stuff, right? Like, so how is that going to get framed? You know, of course, when it's an Armenian lady, it's an angry Armenian lady protesting school, right? But okay, how are they going to navigate that conversation? They're going to start calling Muslims bigots. They're going to start calling, right? You know, like that's going to be interesting. Hey, you want to see something kind of crazy? Over 75% of the people that watch this channel are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing and turning your bell notification on so that you don't miss anything we have going here. U.S. Muslim parents protest losing right to opt out of LGBT school books. There we go. That's what all of you guys that don't understand what the issue is, that's what the issue is.
That's the thumbnail.
Keep our children pure. Come on. The issue that we're coming down to is, parents want the right to opt out of what is happening with their kids and what they're being taught, especially elementary school kids. State of Maryland used to give a choice to students and families to opt out of topics related to human sexuality and family life. Hundreds of parents and educators, campaigners in Maryland protest. Which, by the way, read the title of the headline. Like, look at this headline. Look how neutral this headline is.
Well, it's MiddleEastEye.net.
Okay. I wonder if there's. Find me like.
Let's see if there's another one. That's
yeah. Find me like a
Newsweek. Maryland parents protest. The Catholic News Agency put out an article. Muslim-led parent group protests LGBT curriculum. The only people, Muslim-led protesters.
Okay, so I want you.
Newsweek.com.
Maryland parents protest LGBT books. School Board, protect our children. So now this is what I want you to do, Zach. I want you to pull up the protests in Glendale, which was predominantly by Armenian parents, which that's a whole other conversation. Are Armenians white? Are they Arabs? Are they Europeans? Right? We're neither in terms of, I'm half Armenian. My dad's biologically Armenian. My mom's adopted by an Armenian family. So now let's look at these titles. Violence erupts over rights. Do you see the outrageous anti-protest at California School Board? Protesters brawl over Pride Month. When it's the Armenian Christians who are protesting this stuff, it's no, go back to the other. I just want to see the headlines. If
you type in Muslim protesting in schools, which is the same thing I typed in for the other one, we get.
Is it me or are these much more neutral titles?
Maryland parents. A lot of them don't even mention Muslims except for in the article.
Yeah.
Protesters converge. A large group of Muslims and Christian protesters gathered outside Montgomery schools. Muslim-led, but that's a Catholic news agency.
Yeah.
School board meeting cut short as protests over LGBT.
Notice that all the other articles had anti-LGBT, anti this, anti that, anti-Pride Month, and none of these articles are saying the same thing. So let's just pick an article. Let's read through it and see how it's being framed. This is just goes to show you like the media bias is kind of nuts, right? Rival demonstrators took place outside of Montgomery County Public Schools headquarters in Maryland on Tuesday over a policy update ending the parental right to opt out of having their children taught using LGTV inclusive books. Protest against removing the opt-out was organized by Family Rights, Religious Freedom, Moms for Liberty, attracting scores of Muslims and Christian attendees who chanted, "Protect our children and religious freedom now." A couple of dozen counter-protesters rallied against them, responding with shouts of "Protect kids, secular schools." Teaching, this is so disingenuous. Like, it's not secular if you're indoctrinating. Like it ceases to be secular. Teaching about LGBTQ relationships in school has become a heated topic across the United States. Tuesday, also clashes broke out in Glendale, California, as competing protesters gathered while the Glendale Unified School District Board met to recognize June as Pride Month, which was also about them not allowing parents to opt out. Parents served by the MCPS had been able to opt out of books featuring LGBT included in their children's schooling, but this policy was ended by the board, sparking anger from some campaigners. Demonstrators, including parents, according to Fox News, DC, gathered Tuesday in an issue. Both supporters and opponents of the rule changing video posts on social media. Quotable Jordan Fisher, demonstrators as opposed to ruling change. Yeah, so that's what it comes down to, protect our children. Yeah, and so, it's just interesting how that's being framed. That was the only point of it, but it's going to happen more and more, and the more it happens, the more the tension of the reporting is going to get more complicated for the media, because I would be shocked if they were like just dismissing all these Muslim folks as like bigots and anti-LGTV,
Crazy stuff, hey?
Hey, this is a segment from our daily after party stream. Consider partnering with us online for as little as $5 a month to get access to these daily after party streams completely unedited. You'll also get access to our podcast as they are streamed live into the community before anyone else gets to see them, get to interact with our guests, get access to our private Discord server, and a discount code for our store for as little as $5 a month. Ultimately, that will help towards helping us continue contextualizing the gospel using media and podcast here on YouTube. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.